Franco, welcome to the podcast. It's great to finally have you on. For our listeners who might not know you, let's start at the beginning. You're the founder of MoveToPerform. What is the mission behind the name?
Well, hi, and thank you for having me first. It's a pleasure to be a primer here with the podcast, sharing with you some time, and let's start discussing some good stuff. Move to perform. I would say it all started 2 or 3 years ago when I was in the United States. It started like a small project, just an entrepreneurship. Just I needed to find a name, a path to go with into the freelance and entrepreneurship world. So it was not a company; it was just myself, and the name was created, as I said in my beginnings. It was the translation of my vision, how I see the human movement, and yeah, there are really two pillars that underpin this name is how I feel represented by it, and two of these pillars, like one is the basis of movement as a key to health, I would say, longevity and sport, and but first of all as a human beings, of course, and then as a sports people, as a football player, a soccer player. I'm gonna mention football, but it's soccer. um, it's movement. It's the foundation of any high performance results in sports environment. So this is both of the pillars that I would mention.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And obviously, with our experience with your platform as well, it is becoming a revolutionary type of philosophy that I think will help a lot of players going forward for sure. But kind of jumping into your origin a little bit more, you're originally from Argentina and Spain, countries that are renowned for fluid, intelligent, and technical players. How much did growing up in that culture influence your perspective on how athletes should move and within the context of move to perform?
Well, I was born in Argentina, and I grew up in both in Argentina and Spain. Since I was a kid, I was 5 years old, and I started playing in in an academy there in Argentina, in a first division team. So it was a good academy. It was very complete, where they actually were primers in developing footballers. One of the first academies in Argentina that put all in football development. I would say starting the pathway there. First of all, in Argentina, it's passion, right? Passion about football. It's world recognized about how people live football, and how they enjoy it, right? And I think that passion brings also the desire to know more, to feel the sport, to know more about the sport, right? So, but yeah, I think that is a crucial aspect. Then I still, when I moved to Spain, I had the same mentality on uh, watching football. Like, I continue playing. I started playing in some teams here in Spain, and but with the same idea, right? Enjoying football with all that it takes. Going to the going to the stadium on the city that I was living in, enjoying the team. When you go to watch football, you actually watch football. You're not in that time. You were not. There were no phones. You were not scrolling on your phone as you watch a game, and your attention was fully there, emotional, physical, and even spiritual, right? You were living the moment. You were actually enjoying when you were as a spectator and when you were as a player, both. So I think this aspect, it's very, is an added value, of with regard of the other parts of the world, right? Um, I think it's something that it's a whole environment that envelopes you, right? You play in the streets, you watch it in the TV. When you go to a dinner, you're always talking about football. So different aspects, right, that build this idea and this as you call it, football intelligence, right? Something very, very important in a cultural environment, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head that your culture has an elements and layers to it that is different to that of North America, where you feel it on a spiritual level, as you said. It's about the lifestyle, it's about the culture, it's about the emotions, the community that comes with it, and it's brilliant to see how that perspective has shaped you both as a professional and also as a player. And kind of just jumping in a bit more into your career as a physio, or as we would say in the States, a sports scientist, which probably isn't the right term. But what was the spark or maybe a specific problem you saw in traditional training or injury prevention that made you say, this philosophy would be better, or I could do this in a better way? Like, was there specific moments or specific action, or was it kind of a culmination of multiple moments?
Well, I think it all started in my player career because I played for 23, 24 years, and I had a lot of injuries, right? I wanted to be a football player actually in a pro level. And in the pathway, I suffered a lot of injuries. Not only injuries, but I experienced myself how difficult it is um, to survive in the football environment, right? So as a player, my experience shaped the idea of, you know, started thinking the why and the barriers that as a player, in that case it was me, but now I do it with the rest of the people, and that's why I do what I do, right? Um, it all started by that. I suffered a lot of injuries, and I didn't have the answer and the fix, right? I couldn't find people that actually took care of me in that time. So it all started by then, and like when you see people not helping you, you start thinking the why. You start, if you are curious and you want to know more about it, and you want to give yourself or other people, you want to give an answer, right, or a solution in this case. I started realizing how complex the human body and the mind are. When I say human body is as a whole, right? So I started figuring out that training is not easy as people think, because anyone can be a trainer. Anyone now, and even now with the AI, if you go to ChatGPT, you ask for an 8 week workout, and it's better than a lot of people can do, right? But this is a very reductionist approach, right? It's You're not considering how the human body is, how the brain works, how the people works, because it's we're not talking about bodies, we're talking about people, right? And also this puts a little more value on professionals, like that we blow our mind to give solutions, because people are still getting injured, right? And more and more with it's controversial, because you think we have more technology, you think we have more resources, right? We have more knowledge, but players in this case, they get more injured, right? So all these questions, they started running into my mind, and nowadays this is my power, right? I have this as a, you know, as a pillar to keep going and to keep um, trying to give solutions, actual solutions, right? Something that I didn't have in my time.
Yeah, 100%. I think, again, you've explained it well that that is the reason as to why you're in the profession you are now, to make a difference and to create the difference that maybe you yourself lacked and that we see all over the planet, whether it's in the NCAA, La Liga, it doesn't matter where in the world, right? I feel that these issues exist everywhere. So kind of just deconstructing your philosophy and thinking a bit more. I would label your philosophy as revolutionary, obviously, because I'm biased and I've worked with you. But a key term that you always talk about is cognitive triggers. And how can the nervous system change an athlete's physical output in these specific situations, whether it be performance on the pitch, injury prevention? How do you think a cognitive trigger affects that or can change the performance of an athlete?
That's a great question. It's very deep. I'll try to bring an answer that everyone, our audience, can understand. But it's
Sure.
too complex, even for people that are actually studying this every day. They study this all their lives and still don't have the solution, because again, the human body and the brain, the nervous system is too complex. We still don't understand how it works, but we know that it's determined, right? So when we're talking about training, but when we talk about training, we talk about injury prevention, rehab, even from all aspects from all disciplines, right? We talk about physical therapy, we can talk about trainers, athletic trainers, strength and conditioning, even medicine, right? So the idea is that the body works as a whole. It cannot be. People think, and even the studies, when in science you study the human performance, you measure a specific output, right, or a specific feel or part of the body, right? This doesn't work like this. It's we got to consider at least the body as a whole, right? We cannot separate the muscular system. We cannot separate the hormonal system. We cannot separate the emotional aspect, right? So this is the baseline of this concept you mentioned, right? So I like to probably I can use an analogy which is pretty straightforward, pretty clear. Like I like to think the brain. Let's think the brain as a CEO of a company, right? And the body, it has different departments underneath it, right? Underneath the CEO. The CEO doesn't move or work or builds the product, right? We can call it the CEO is there to manage, give orders, organize the department, organize people, and so on and so forth, right? These departments we can separate. Muscular system, we can separate, again, hormonal system, we can say is we have tendons, ligaments, whatever, right? But we cannot, they cannot work alone, right? They don't have the ability to work alone. They need organization, they need communication between departments, right? This is when the CEO comes, right? He decides how the company reacts when the market changes, for example, right? We could compare this like in a sports environment. It's the environment itself, like you're playing in the stadium, or you're playing in the streets, or you're playing. It's not the same playing in front of 100K people in a full stadium playing a final in a Champions League, we can say, or playing in the streets with your friends, right? It's not the same. We got game, we got the opponents, we got the pressure, so on and so forth, right? In traditional training, the CEO, we could say it gets the same report every day. It's the same report. I give you the same data. I'm giving you the same drills, same pace, same rhythm. It's not flexible, right? So the company is efficient because it works automatic, but when something unpredictable comes, when a 2009 crash comes, right? When the market shifts, you gotta respond, right? Even though the conditions are are not forgettable. You don't expect it, right? This is our entire life. We adapt to different situations, and this is sports. It's especially open sports. We have different type of sport like cycling, running. This is more closed. It's called closed scale sports. But when you have open skills, you gotta be adaptive, right? You gotta respond. And then, so linking to the training, this I like to call it reductionist, but methods that only focus on one aspect. For example, strength, pure strength. We need strength. I'm not saying we don't, but we need more variables, right? We need variation. We need unpredictability. We need to engage all the systems in our body. Again, they're not separated. Even though if you're doing a squat, a heavy squat, you cannot say, okay, I'm gonna use my big muscles to move a big load. No, it's everything. You want to lift, you just make the lift. Your brain says the order, you lift it. That's it. You're not depending on your quad, or not. You're not depending on different muscles that are, in this case, bigger, or they have more strength to move, right? So again, through variation, the CEO, right, can start getting all kinds of unpredictable information, right? The brain has to interpret that noise, find new solutions, reorganize the system, right? We can call this a cognitive trigger. It's like a little spark where the nervous system is, you touch, it is called the entropy, you touch their balance in the system, and the system learns to adapt. That's how you make resilient players, right? So this would be a good analogy to explain. It's far more complex than this, but yeah, that's how body works. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in our experience together in the training sessions is, it's a concept that we say a lot in English, like train how you play. I think the cognitive triggers help us to adapt. Like when we're training with you in the gym in that way, it simulates what you're doing in the game, because in the game you cannot think one step at a time. It has to be multiple fluid motions. You have to adapt and be versatile to multiple different stimuli. It can be very chaotic. Football can be very unstable at times, especially on the body. So I think your training very much reflects that, especially with the implementation of cognitive triggers. And I'll put a little explanation or a definition for the listeners, of course, but kind of segueing into another concept that you talk about a lot during our training sessions and just in general. You focus heavily on these ideas of transfers of energy and how they contribute to elasticity in the body, which is very different from the standard focus on isolated muscle strength, as you had mentioned, like whether it is just squatting, doing pull-ups, or basically lifting until your muscles burn out. So what is the distinction with these two ideas, and why is it critical for elite performance in players?
Well, a key sentence you say, it's you play as you train. This is clue, because different we can speak about, we have different tools, right? I'm not especially keen to any tool. This is not saying, okay, being more like training on the field, it will be always better than training on the gym. For example, if we start thinking like this, we can say this, right? No, you never play in a gym, so why you train in the gym, right? But this is not like this. We don't think about. I like to think about tools, right? We got different tools, and I'm not saying squatting is bad, doing pull-ups is bad, but I have better tools to get better results, right? So again, if we have players that they still getting injured, and more and more and more, and we're not giving answers to these problems, right? So we got to change the way we think. We got to change the way we do things, right? It's not possible that in a team, 50% of players have had an ACL tear, for example. A big injury with the surgery, with with an emotional part, with it changes lives, right? So we gotta change the way we train. So again, because this is, if you say no, strength training is better than I don't know, training the field, or vice versa, training the field with the ball will be always better than heavy lifting. No, this is being dogmatic. This is not using your critical reasoning, right? So when you reason and you see how the body works, and you see how we work, right? How our systems work together, and how we see amazing stuff when we see a football match, when we see a soccer game. It's amazing how to see players, especially in top leagues. You see Champions League, you see Premier League, La Liga, so on and so forth. Like, you love to see how they perform more and more. They run more, they sprint more, they play more minutes, more games in a week, but they're getting more and more injured, right? So, do you have better tools? This is the question, right? And when you go deeper, and you dig in the root cause, you start realizing that this is not the way, right? We gotta change the way we do things. We gotta reject things that don't bring you results, right? That's being a good professional, I think. We don't have the best answer, but I really believe we have to do our best to give players, in this case, tools for being more robust, more resilient, be happier in their lives, perform better, play more games, not getting injured. This is the end goal, right? So when we talk about different methods, you got to know the why. Why you squat? Why you do pull-ups? Why don't you do this exercise instead of doing squat? Right? So it's going to the root cause of the problem and bringing a solution to this problem, right? Whatever the answer is. But what we can affirm is it's far more complex than that. That's 100% true. Like, we gotta give more. We gotta see a big picture, way bigger picture. But because again, whoever wants to program like this, they can. You can. It's super easy to program like this. Super easy. You say 3 times 5. You squat at 80% of your RM, of your maximum repetition. You do 5 sets, and you're done. But why you do it? You have other tools. You do better. Are you adapting to that person? Do you consider their injuries? Do you consider how they react, their training resiliency? Because every person is different, right? So we cannot avoid all these aspects, right? Because if you avoid it, you're not being a good professional, from my perspective, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think a big topic, and I think you spoke about it, is the capacity to apply thinking and decision making in the training as well. As you said, it is easy to arrive in a gym and just lift weights until your muscles burn out, but without the thinking, without the reasoning, without asking why, you can find yourself in a difficult predicament when, as you said, there are tools that are available to elevate your game to something more. And I think the top professionals in the Premier League, or even the top of the NCAA, those athletes are able to adapt, and they're able to think at such a high level and change the way that their body moves given a specific stimuli. I think a lot of athletes, especially in college and in the US, struggle with these strength coaches because a lot of them are telling them, 3 times 5 squat, 4 times 12 bench, whatever it is. But how does that
Anyone
contribute
can do
to their
this.
performance on the pitch, right? How does that change
Exactly.
the way that their output? Like, if I'm a striker, how does that help me score more goals? If I'm a goalkeeper, how does that help me save more shots? Like, what is the reasoning behind this? And it seems like a one-size-fits-all kind of philosophy, and yours is very specific to the footballers. So kind of just diving a little bit more deeply into your thinking and your output as a sports scientist or physio, You've worked with some big names in top five European leagues. How receptive are these top tier professionals to this thinking and this philosophy of yours? How have they reacted when you try to implement it?
Wow, it's a challenge, right? Especially when you try to bring something new. You gotta be very careful on how you communicate it first, and then you don't have to you don't have to explain that much when you bring results, right? So this is the key difference. When you it happened to us with a player that plays at that level. He a football player just wants to play, and if he's injured, he will do whatever to come back and perform at his best, right? Or her, in this case. Um, so this is clue because you cannot convince, especially at that level. You have players, you have a lot of professionals. It's a very because the play environment is competitive, but our I would say the professional, the coaching, healthcare, or all the areas surrounding the football player, it's even more competitive, right? So you gotta differentiate yourself by bringing results. If you don't give results, I think at least you gotta think why, and you gotta change the way you do things. At least change the way you think about how you do things. So with me, it worked when I give results, right? And I work with people that give results in a very high level, right? And they are respected in all over the world because they give results. Whoever wants to know the why, he will ask the why, or she, they will ask the why. But sometimes they're just looking for help and for a solution of their problem. And you gotta give it. You gotta give it to them. That's clue. So if you are capable of changing situations and difficult situations, very challenging situations. We had a player. He was in a very difficult moment of his career. Super young player. He's just beginning. He's back, but he got a serious injury. He got a very serious injury, and he was about to lose a big contract in a top league. He was about to lose it because he was not playing, and they were asking him to be on the field to sign that contract, right? And at the end, he didn't sign that contract because of different aspects, but other aspects. But we did our job, right? He was injured, right? He had a serious injury. A usual alternative that traditional or more traditional medicine or healthcare gave him, it was a surgery. So surgery means if it's for us, if it's a month or 3 weeks off, it's 4 months at least. And then you come back, you need to recover from your injury, you need to from that surgery, you need to do a lot of stuff more. But with us, he needed from us to bring a solution, to be efficient, to say, okay, I'm gonna hire you, but with an objective, right? So we were able to give him a solution in third of the time, right, than the rest. So when a player sees that, he believes because you actually gave results, right? It's not that you are mentioning yourself at well, I'm this, I do this, I'm the best in the market, I can offer you this. No, you shut your mouth and you bring results, right? Then you got their confidence, and this is super important for a player nowadays, especially at that level. So it's challenging, because it's not easy to have this idea about training, especially because there's a whole culture around it. We can speak about the U.S. how it is. It's very, very controversial. We got people that really know how to see this, but we got other people, we would say, close-minded, right? They're not open to at least new concepts, not mine, not his, not from others, just different concepts, right? And this is how we evolve. So I think again, bring your results. It's clue to start changing the way we do things and the way in football we do things.
100%. I think that's really well said. And kind of jumping in, you answered two of my questions with that response, so kudos to you. But I think a big aspect you talk to your players, and us included, that you've worked with is when you're assessing us or when you're assessing a player, what are you looking for? Are there energy leaks? Are there specific characteristics that you're looking at in those initial assessments? Or how do you understand or formulate a process for a player? Because obviously it's different case to case, right? So in a first training session, whether it's with a collegiate player or maybe a professional, what are specific things that you're looking for in that way?
Um, one key aspect to consider here is experience, right? The more experience you have, better eye you got for searching different stuff, right? When we started working together, it was a long time ago, right? I think 4 years maybe we started first. And I don't look at you nowadays as I did by then, right? So this is a process as well, but that this is the change we need is to see everything, to watch everything, right? And this is not easy. This is very difficult. It's experience dependent and it's knowledge dependent, right? But it is what it is. We got to do it like this. Not because it's difficult. I'm not gonna say no. Like, why people search for curing cancer? Nobody cured cancer nowadays. But there's a lot of people investigating, try to fix it, right? So this is the same. This is the same concept. We gotta see everything we can, right? I'm not saying that I would do the work as a psychologist or as a cognitive psychologist would, because he's the specialist or she's the specialist, right? But we gotta know everything, at least know that exists, right? Because a problem or say something, a potential to improve can come from whenever. Sorry, the potential to improve can come from wherever, right? So when I saw you guys at first, what I saw is movement literacy, right? So movement literacy, we can call it like as your movement foundation, right? It is very, very dependent on how you grew up in terms of movement, right? And how you were taught also, right? Because it's not the same learning some skills or some concepts at the age of 23, 24, or at the age of 15, right? We got what is called sensitive stages, right? Where you got to learn these things. If you don't learn it now, it's not impossible, because brain changes all over your life. And this is something that is controversial and is very new, because people think when you're an adult, you don't learn anymore, your brain doesn't change, and you're going to be like this forever. No, this is not true. It changes in a different way than when you're young, right? So when you are, when I saw you guys, I said by myself, if we work on the foundation, we got a lot to improve. We got a lot to improve, because sometimes the lack is the foundation, right? That's what I'm saying. How are you why you would squat double times your weight if you don't know how you manage or handle your body with your own weight, with your body weight, right? So it's something to consider, right? So when we started working together, if you remember, a lot of stuff we did was body awareness with your body. We didn't have anything. We didn't need everything. Why I was going to put you under a bar or put you under XYZ weight if you struggle by managing your weight, by using your weight, your body. You got to use your body. You play with your body. You don't play you don't play carry on 20-pound dumbbells or kettlebells with yourself. You play with yourself. You play with the ball. You play with opponents. You play with your own balance, right? So again, with the cognitive triggers, you got different things that come before, right? That set the foundation. Then, if you're someone that you see, okay, you got to improve your overall strength output in a certain movement. Why we could use it? Why not? But if we don't have the basis, we don't have the baseline, injuries will come, poor performance will come, overuse, because sometimes what people don't understand, that injuries can come from a lot of time, right? From, again, overuse, a lot of stress, things that you are not fixing now, they will pay off tomorrow, right? So your evolution, guys, is, you can tell it's more about body awareness. It's not, my goal is not you to lift double times your body. This is not my goal for you, because of your goals. If you were a power lifter, maybe, but you're not.
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, like, very well said. The way that you're able to specialize for each player. For example, and Colin and myself, I'm a 6'5" striker. Colin is a 5'7" left back. Right? The way that we move is completely different. The way that we orientate
This is
our bodies is
this is the
completely
best example. This is the best
Exactly.
example.
And you and your philosophy and what we've experienced is, it's almost underlining qualities that we already have and bringing them into the light, and then teaching us to maintain that rhythm at an elevated level. And I feel that that impact was profound for both of us, because the more that you feel your own energy, whether it's a lifestyle change such as sunlight or grounding or dietary changes that you've encouraged us to do, or the stuff in the gym, it allows us to elevate our rhythm in the way that we move, the way that we think, the way that we see injury prevention, the way that we even activate, the way that we warm up, the way that we cool down. There's all these elements that go into the performance, right? Because in the training sessions with you, it has always been high-level conversations causing us to think. I think Colin and myself and your other players will tell you that our minds are more exhausted than even our bodies after your training sessions. So I think it is dedicated towards creating a complete player, as you said, because the industry standard sometimes in the States is just about heavy lifting or building muscle. But what you're saying is, if you have all of that, but you cannot move in the correct way, it is for nothing. It is for nothing. And so, kind of switching gears a bit, like building into your concept of a better version of an athlete. At our company, at Off the Ball, we're dedicated to building the complete player. And your philosophy has felt like a missing piece of the puzzle for Colin and I specifically, but I think for all the players that you've worked with. So how do you see your work directly translating to a player's on-the-field decision-making? Like, how do you feel that the work in the gym contributes to the speed in which we're able to take a decision or react to specific stimuli?
I would say I wouldn't close just to a concept. For example, in the gym, it's you can work wherever, right? And this is the good part of it. Sometimes we got to go to the gym because we need specific material. Other times we have to go to the field because we need to work on stuff that we have to work on the field. Or sometimes we just go to the park and do some movement, right? So it's really situation dependent. And I would say again, going back to the basics, about movement, about taking care of yourself, about balance, um, looking forward to come to bring some neutral point and say, okay, we need this baseline, and from here you are going to improve, right? But it's really situational dependent, because there are some points that we would have to say, okay, we just got to work on this because it's very specific, because you're in competition, and you got to improve this, or we gotta work on this flawless that you have with regard to your injury. But it's more teaching a lifestyle, and teaching how to elevate your body's performance, right? And when I mention body's performance, it's everything, right? Mindset, right? It's super important, super important. And being aware of every aspect you do, right? And I think this way of viewing not only training, because I like to mention now, it's healthcare, it's longevity career, it's 10 more years in your career, it's enjoying football. Look at Modric. He's playing at the top level at 40 years old, and for achieving that, playing on the highest level, and he wants to go more competition wise. He takes care of himself. His personal situation is very stable. He has family. He's a very chill guy. He's always a good guy, right? Because this is important as well, right? So building a whole concept and movement as a foundation, right? Then you have different branches that you got to cover, right? So if players, and you treat with a lot of players that really want to reach a high level and want to reach pro, and the demand is way more. Now it's more competitive than it was before, especially in the United States, right? I think this is something that it has to be done, right? I cannot see performance or playing at a high level without this. You have players that they don't cover these aspects, but I think football is evolutionizing. It's growing to that. It's growing towards that, right? And at some point, it's gonna be mandatory. If you don't have that, we got the example of Llorente nowadays. They say, why he played 30 matches in a row, 90 minutes at his highest level, and he doesn't decrease performance. Look at his lifestyle. Look at his mentality. How he does things, right? So it's everything. I'm not saying everyone has to be like this, but everyone has to have at least a mentality that that brings up all aspects, right, of human performance in this case.
For sure, for sure. And I think players like that set the standard. As an example, is something that we should all strive to be, whether you're a player in high school, or you're a player in the Premier League, or you're in the Champions League or La Liga, in the case of Llorente, of course. And I feel specifically with off the ball, we work with a lot of young players who are focused on just getting bigger, faster, stronger. They want the attention of college coaches or professional coaches about their physical condition, but you're preaching a more holistic approach, not just identifying weaknesses maybe in their physicality, but it's all these other elements, the way that they eat, the way that they sleep, are they meditating, are they visualizing, all these other factors that contribute to success. So at what age, if you had to give an estimation, when should players start thinking about these lifestyle changes? When should they start trying to implement these? Is there an age that's too young? Is there an age that's too old? Or what do you think is the best range?
For me, ideally, since the day we're born, right? But Um, this is to say that it's never late. It's never late. As I mentioned before, you got sensitive ages, where you can the potential of improvement is higher because of stages of development. This is how we grow. This is how we develop, right? But it's never late, right? Of course, ideally, the sooner the better. Always, the sooner the better, because a young brain, right? When you're a child, and when you're in the youth period, when you are adolescent and adult, we got different stages of brain and body, and so motor development, right? We got different stages, and you gotta have tools, right? We're talking again about tools. You gotta have different tools, right? So a good example to put is science says that the players, and not only players, people that play multi-sport, different types of sports in their development, have more injury resiliency, longevity, health. They have also mentally, emotionally, they're more powerful, right? And this is not a coincidence, because what multi-sport, for example, gives is different type of stimuli, right? And I'm not saying you got to play all the sports. And you got some sports that are more similar than others. But look at Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's I think he's your height, right? And he's so skillful. Why? Because he did. I think he did combat sports when he was young, right? And he did the fact that he did these type of sports at this age gave him a lot of tools to play then skillfully in football, right? Then there are a lot of factors that come inside because of whatever competition. He's able mentally, he's able to play crazily good at a certain level, but movement wise, we talk about a foundation, right? So we have different sensitive ages where it's super important to have this stimuli, right? Movement wise, body awareness, and this is well described in science, right? We got also, for example, we got the Ajax model, the Ajax historical team, right? They bring up a lot of professional and high level players. They have a multi-sport model. At least they cover different aspects, right? They play basketball. They play I don't know. They do athletics, maybe. They do other different sports, because this is the foundation for example, decision making in football. In basketball, for example, you gotta think quicker, right? You gotta think quicker. You have less time to move. You got less time to play. You have the clock. You have different aspects that give you they give you tools to then, okay, so when you're playing a 90-minute game, you got the ability to respond in quicker actions, for example, right? Or again, playing combat sports give you the contact, the body awareness, right? How to use your arms, how to use your legs, how to use everything connected. So this is the foundation, right? I'm not saying you got to play all the sports in your life, but this is the foundation to say, hey, you got to move, you got to have body awareness, you got to train differently as people do now, right? It's not putting I hate to see agility ladders with kids of 5 years old. They don't have the coordination to do this. It's not what they have to do. They have to do other stuff. They gotta play. They gotta have fun. They gotta play with the hands, with the feet. They have to learn rules. They have to learn emotional intelligence. Different aspects that are not useful you cannot do this. It's, for me, is a bad thing. You don't have to, you don't have to be too close, right? Too reductionist. I
Yeah, for
believe I
sure.
answered you.
Yeah, no, you did,
I
and in
believe.
such a no, in such a great way. I think, Franco, honestly, because there are many industry professionals in the United States. Because that is something that we think is that our kids, there's too many sports that they don't focus on football enough, and therefore that is why we're not more proficient, especially in the men's game. But I like your idea and I like your perspective because encouraging kids to play, to enjoy, to
Completely.
develop these foundational characteristics that could be the difference at the next level. Because nowadays, I feel that many of our clients and many kids around the world, there's all these programs that you can buy, all these skills coaches, personal coaches. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars on your development, but for what? Does it
It's
really make a
useless.
difference? Right?
It's
It's
useless. With
useless.
all my respects, it's useless.
Exactly. And so that is something you and I have spoken about a lot, but I think you hit the nail on the head is that developing these in a natural way because what is a ladder going to do at 5 years old if you do not know how to coordinate your hands or your feet or to change a direction or the transfers of energy that you talk about? Like things in basketball, even tennis, it can translate to football. And I think that encouraging that, if we can find a way as a country to use it as a strength, because many people, even in MLS, US soccer, college, the national team, they say, there's too many options and it hinders our athletic talent because in the States we have many top athletes who are playing all these other sports, but things are starting to change, and especially people such as yourself who you yourself you've played college soccer, you've played in the States, you've also played in Europe, you've worked with some of the top professionals in the world. So I really do appreciate that perspective because I agree with you 100%. And I think another question I have about the young players in particular, is there a mistake that you see ambitious young players in football make? Is there a common mistake, whether it comes to physical preparation, maybe they're approaching the game wrong? Is there a deficiency that you see that is consistent in that way?
So I think linking what we mentioned, and you mentioned something very, it's clue that they focus, like, to me, they focus too hard on themselves, too hard, excessively hard, instead of enjoying the good point of sports, right? And this might be not relevant, but it's super important because at some age, when you're a kid, especially, I'm not saying from 16, because when you have a certain age, you gotta specialize, you gotta compete, right? And especially nowadays that we see players at the age of 17 playing at the highest level, right? But when you gotta put the baseline, right? And not the kids are not made to struggle with like too hard competitive, like they don't have to be competitive at all, right? Because competition is built at that age, is built different, right? Then we got an evolution, right? When you got this baseline of playing, right? And you got you enjoyed, you added the most, you added tools enough to build a robust body, or football player. Let's talk about this. You can go to the next step, right? So when you build enough, your foundation, when you have your tools, you can go and you must go to the next step, right? But being too hard too early, right, will build frustration, injuries again, because if you go too quick or too hard, burnout will come, overuse injuries will come, or any other type of injury, right? They will drop, they will drop, they will leave, they will quit because they're not ready to bear or to tolerate different types of stress, right? So if you go too hard with them, they might burn out, right? And this is clue because you have to build a resilient mind to be ready to the high level, right? If you start too early, they will quit. They will not tolerate.
100%.
I have been into the high level, and it's a very difficult world. Very difficult. You got to be very, very resilient. You got to be very intelligent emotionally to tolerate, because people think being a football player is easy, right? It's chill. It's wow, they live so good. They don't know. They don't know what it takes to be there, right? So if you go too early, you won't ever achieve that level, right? You gotta work on specific things. Of course, every person. I'm talking about general. Like I'm generalizing. There are different types of growing up, right? But this is what we can change, right? We cannot go in our 10-year-old kid to expect them to go and reach pro and sign a pro contract, right? We cannot, right? And this is the thing that we got to change. This is the thing, because they won't they won't arrive. It's not possible. It's not possible.
100%. And I think your advocacy for these holistic habits are essential, honestly. And Colin and I, we've experienced it ourselves in our personal careers, but even working with the amount of players that we have, seeing burnouts, seeing how injuries destroy a career. Because when a player arrives and they've built their entire career on stress and not dealing with that stimuli in the right way, a big injury comes and it kills them. They don't want to play anymore. They lose the motivation, or they start adopting other habits. Maybe they drink, maybe they vape, maybe they get a girlfriend, the distraction, whatever it is, and
Or because it was the first injury they had in their lives.
exactly, and they don't know how
And
to they don't know how to
they don't know how
react.
to manage
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
they don't know how to manage it, and that is the difficult thing about football, and it's a reflection of life. Is yes, everything is good when things are good, but how are you when things are bad and it's not going your way, right? And I think
It's,
you speak on this all the time in that way. So, but I believe in kind of just moving into our final segment a little bit, but we believe your work is revolutionary, 100%. So, my question to you is, why is this not the industry standard? Why is this not being spoken about more? And what is the barrier that is stopping major clubs or even youth clubs around the world from adopting a philosophy such as yours?
um, well, thank you for that. But I think it will come. It will come. I don't know when, but sooner or later it will come, because people will realize that they're not bringing results enough. Again, the players are getting more injured, right? Again, we have more resources economically, human being. We have more and more and more, but we're not able to reduce. I'm not saying, of course, it's impossible to avoid an injury. It's impossible. You got a lot of factors that come in, but we're not in the right direction. And people, I know a lot of people in the street that think like this, right? And the more we know, right? We the less we know, right? So this is too complex. That's what I'm trying to say. But that doesn't mean we have to look in another direction, to the opposite way, and say, okay, I'm going to avoid all these things because I'm gonna make as if it doesn't exist, and I'm still doing my thing. I don't think I don't believe this is I don't believe you are I don't believe you are a good professional like this, right? So it will come. It will come. It's just a matter of time, and a lot of things have to change, because as a barrier we have people that have been working in a way from a lot of time, right? And it's difficult to come and bring a new perspective. I'm not saying new; it's just a different perspective, right? Bring in something new. You gotta at least discuss, right? And I'm not saying I don't want to discuss, but I know people that don't even want to listen, right? So in my case, if I know, this is how I work. If I know something that will bring me more results. If you tomorrow bring me something, hey, I've heard of this that reduced 50% the injuries in players, at least I would read about it. I would dig in a little bit and I would discuss with you. And if I have to change my way of doing things because yours is better or at least more efficient, I would do it. This is a key point, right? And some of the professionals that are on top, they don't want to change this, right? They're dogmatic, egos, I don't know, but we'll get to there, I'm sure.
Sure. For sure. And you yourself were a collegiate player. You played at Florida Tech. You've experienced different sides to the game. You've seen different kinds of coaches. You've played at a high level in Spain and Europe, and you've seen there's issues there. There's issues in the States that are completely different. But I think something that is very similar is the dogmatic stubbornness that exists in people, no matter what country you're playing in. I feel that in the States, our strength training, a lot of times in the collegiate soccer landscape, is contributing to injury, is contributing to developmental issues when players, they're not playing enough games or they're playing too many games at high intensity that is destroying their body, and then they're not ready for the professional game. And obviously, we've seen the proposal with U.S. Soccer trying to encourage the NCAA to switch to a 10-month season. So hopefully you could see some changes as you're speaking about. Maybe it opens the door for more conversations such as this. But I believe that there are many, many things that we need to improve upon in our country, which is developing these philosophies and inviting new philosophies that are backed by results, as you said. I think that is where MoveToPerform and Off the Ball are similar, is that we're backed by case studies. We're backed by real evidence that this works, because I know we talk about this all the time. We see the Instagram videos, we see podcasts, we see so many industry professionals all claiming the same thing. So if I'm a young player, how am I to know what is the correct path or what is the correct method? It is almost like there's too much. It's oversaturated in that way. So I guess my question for you in this moment is, what's next for you, and what's next for MoveToPerform as a whole to kind of combat or find a new way to reach more players, to reach that player that is motivated and would be receptive to you and your teaching?
Well, very, very deep what you mentioned. I believe we first gotta we don't have to convince people, because when you start convincing, you lose your right? So, but at least bringing the awareness to people, right? Because again, when I was a player, I didn't know. I just wanted help, right? And I couldn't find it, right? That's what players in this case and the whole environment need to understand. If you hire a professional, demand results. You're hiring someone that is offering you something, right? And you have to demand results, right? But results, we can call different type of results, right? I'm not saying from one day to another. Some things are not fixable, but set goals, and at least you have to see some changes, some progress. If you don't, then why you do it, right? And I think people have to be aware of this, first of all, right? Because a player just wants help, or a parent, or they just want to give the best of or for themselves or for their kids in this case, right? So this is something that people must understand, right? And for myself, I just can offer what I offer what I do, right? Because I believe I'm giving my best. I'm not saying I'm the best. It's impossible to say that. You cannot say this. But at least I give my 100% to bring up results. If I can't, I will tell you, right? Or I give you more options, right? This is being honest, right? So again, I will start from 5 years. I was till today. I was one, and the next 5 years, I'm gonna maybe I change completely what I do now. But I think this is a good thing, right? Because you're everyday learning, and you want to give the best, right? So this is my motto. Like I wouldn't I wouldn't set goals, but if I can solve as much problems as I can, that's my success.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. And yeah, I think there are many ways for those who are new to Franco and his concepts and our listeners. There are many facets, many demographics of footballers that he's worked in, from high school players all the way to the top of the game, the top of the food chain, players that are going to play in the World Cup later this next year, right? And all these philosophies culminate into, as you said, a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle change. That is what you advocate, and that is what you work to implement with your players. So, for you as a coach yourself, what is one thing from this conversation that you would want a player to take away from? A concept that you believe is important, or one that could be the difference for them in their careers?
Wow, that's a that's a good question to close, huh? Um, I would say the most important things are being aware on what you do, right? Because when and being aware and having a good depth, right? So being humble, we consider being a good person, because when that comes up, everything else is relative, right? So from there, I would I would say people that they don't have to. It's never enough, so to speak. It's demand. If you don't have a result, what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to find the word in English. What I'm trying to say is, if something is not working, at least think why, right? And challenge what you have in front of you, right? Try to have a broader perspective, a bigger picture of it, right? Because sometimes you won't have an answer for something, for certain problems. But then if you start maybe questioning, or think about different aspects that can bring you up a solution, you might have the answer, or at least you be closer to it, right? So for coaches, for parents, for players, if they feel that something is not working out, at least ask why, right? And that's the first step to go for the right answer for you, right? Um, but we mentioned a lot of things that I would highlight. But again, this is the most important aspect. Like it engages everything that we talked about, right? In different aspects. So yeah, never. Don't be. I can't find the word in. I can't find the word in English. Don't. It's not enough. It's not enough. Like be. Help me.
No, I know.
Help me a
I know
little.
what you mean. I think you always have to. What you're saying, I believe what you're saying is taking the courage to ask why, taking the courage
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you
to
say it better than me.
yeah, yeah. Well, I get what you mean. It's difficult. It's difficult, especially as a young player. I've experienced it myself. You've experienced it as a player and as a coach, when you have an authority over you, when you have a club, a manager, a mentor advocating for a specific way, but you know it is not the best way, that there has to be something else that could be the difference. That is what we advocate for our players. That is why Colin and I have, we're from the middle of nowhere US, and we've had, decent careers. That is why we encourage higher level players to take these decisions, to take the courage, because you have to ask why. No matter what level you're at, you always have to ask those questions of yourself and of the professionals that are around you, because in the end, no one is perfect in this industry. No one is perfect in general as people. And in order, as you said, to achieve the best results, you have to constantly evaluate. You have to constantly see, does it align with the lifestyle that I want to live? Does it align with the objectives I've set for myself? So I think it's brilliant, man. Like I said, all of your answers, all of the insight that you've given us today has been very, very, very beneficial and informative for especially our younger listeners and our players that we work with. And we thank you for your time, Franco. And for those that aren't totally aware of Franco's program and platform, he works, as I said, he works with all different kinds of players. He's open to working with more players. Part of this podcast is to introduce Franco to the off the ball platform so our players can feel connected, to understand a bit more of who he is and how he works. Obviously, a 1 hour podcast is not, we could go on and on and on for a million hours about these concepts, but we
I
really
believe so.
appreciate, yeah, we really appreciate your time during your busy schedule, especially at this stage in the season on that in Spain. So thank you for your time today, Franco. And yeah, we definitely would look forward to having you again on the podcast in the future. And we wish you the best of luck in your career and things that you're looking to achieve, both with collegiate players in the United States, but also in the professional game in Europe.
Thank you for your time, Aidan. It was a great conversation. I believe it's a starting point to open more debates, more discussions, more conversations like this, because we need it. And yeah, thank you for having me. I had a very, very good time. It was short. It was short for me. I could, with me and you, we could speak for hours,
Forever.
especially talking about this. But hopefully people that listen to us at least ask why, right? At least they we changed some, we put some spark in their brains to at least see the why. So thank you again. Thank you for having me. I had a very good time, and hopefully we see you next time.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you, brother. You take it easy.
You too, my man.